Okay, I have 12:02, so we will go ahead and begin the program. Welcome to the Tech Tipping Point. It is now. This particular program is designed for general counsel or senior legal leaders. My name is Mary Claire Garber, and I'm a principal with Princeton Legal Search Group. Also on the call today with us is David Garber, a principal with Princeton Legal Search Group. We at Princeton Legal have been identifying professional development programs for general counsel to help you stay engaged, current, and relevant during these rapidly fluctuating times of change. Change seems to be more constant, and the rate of change seems to have increased. We hear from general counsel that one of their biggest challenges is adapting to leading virtual teams. And it looks like some form of virtual and in-person work will be the new norm. With that in mind, we have scouted the marketplace for resources to help you address the new work environment. The work itself may not be changing any more rapidly because the nature of law is continual change. How you manage the process flow or legal operations is what's in transition. It is no longer a one team in place. So with that, we have asked Lourdes Slater, who is an attorney, to lead us through a discussion today on how you may improve workflow solutions, reduce blockages, effectively allocate resources, and identify opportunities for improvement. And in so doing, to identify technical resources that may be available. A couple of brief logistics before we actually begin the program. The program is being recorded, and a recording of the program will be sent to all participants post-program. We will hold and have built into the program time for Q&A, which will be at the end or toward the end of the information after I introduce Lourdes, and when she stops speaking, there again will be some time for Q&A. You may, I will read out the question so that everybody knows what the question is, particularly if you're on a mobile device. So you may submit questions anonymously, or you may submit them by name. And that's how we're going to handle the Q&A function. And then, if I may, introduce Lourdes Slater. Lourdes Slater is an attorney, founder, and CEO at Karta Legal, and a Lean Six Sigma black belt. That's the LSSB acronym at the end of her name. Lourdes has over 20 years of legal ops, technology management, and litigation experience. Throughout her career as both a partner and as CEO, she has represented government agencies and publicly held Fortune 100 companies. She has been recognized as a trailblazer. I apologize, I thought that was on silent. She has been recognized as a trailblazer by the New York Law Journal for being an agent of change, a thought leader, and an innovator. It has been a pleasure getting to know Lourdes personally and professionally. She is passionate about technology, about deploying technology to improve legal processes. And she will be guiding us through strategies for leading a legal team toward shifting to a truly digital model. With that, let me turn it over to Lourdes, and we will go ahead and begin the content.
Great, thank you. Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Mary Claire, and thank you to Princeton Legal Review for inviting me to talk to you today about my goal of digital transformation in legal. And I say goal very deliberately because there is a lot of innovation that needs to happen before we get there. The first thing I want to address today is the concept of innovation, because the word innovation has become some sort of a buzzword in the industry. The meaning of it, the importance of it has been diluted amongst a lot of noise, mostly coming from the tech investment sector. In 2018, the tech investment sector experienced a 700% growth. 2019 set another record with $1.23 billion invested by the end of the third quarter of 2019. So this is to say that there are and will be a lot of people making a lot of noise about tech innovation. It will remain to be seen how this pandemic is going to affect the exponential growth of tech investment. But I suspect that if anything, it will pick it up with new ideas for addressing remote work specifically. But to me, innovation simply means a change that adds value. That's it. It can be a big change or a little change in your work or your personal life that adds value to you or to your organization. Innovation is not the acquisition of new technology. It's not simply the acquisition of new technology. I always say that innovation for innovation's sake is futile. Otherwise, you will be in this situation where your technology is chasing the problem and not the other way around. So innovation to me is change management, is the upskilling of your team and the redesigning of your processes. And those are the foundations upon which a true digital transformation goal can happen. I come to this as a process expert, and as such, I am a big proponent of bite-sized innovation. If you leave here today with a few takeaways, let this be the first one. Digital innovation is a process. And that is really the only way that we can reach the goal of digital transformation. We have to think about this as a big project full of mini projects that have been properly prioritized, that they have been mapped out, and only after a holistic assessment of your department's current capabilities, technology, and needs. The second takeaway is that innovation has a compounding effect and it grows exponentially, which is why I find it incredibly important to start innovating, even little by little. And that brings me, I guess, to the title of the webinar, which is The Tech Tipping Point is Now. I work, write, and lecture a lot about legal innovation. It is really my passion, like Mary Claire was talking about. I lecture in law schools and I train clients on how to trigger change management, not only about the theory of innovation, but with practical tips, tools, and methodologies. And I guess one of my favorite topics, and we will not address that in detail here, is why lawyers struggle to innovate and how to tackle those barriers. But the bottom line is that I know firsthand that there is a natural resistance to change. I've had to overcome that many times. I have learned in doing so that for innovation to truly succeed, there needs to be this perfect storm. It happens when you have three things. It happens when you have the technology. So the technology is there and it's feasible to do what you want to do. It happens when you have market factors or a business case that is pushing you to it. And it only happens when the people want to change. So let's just talk about those 3 points specifically. The perfect storm component number one, clearly the tech feasibility is the easiest one of those components. That is confirmed by the fact that in 2019, there were over $3 billion spent in legal tech software. So the tech is there, is being bought, is being built. But the fact is that we have known for many years that legal technology is way ahead of what lawyers do with it. Regardless, the ability to work magic with technology is there. So let's talk about the perfect storm component number 2, which is the business case. We have had market factors pointing us towards a transformation in the delivery of legal services for years now. It can be a case so data intensive or complex that pushes lawyers to look into tech solutions to manage the case. And I think a perfect example of innovation in the legal space is e-discovery and the rise of the armies of contract attorneys that came with it. And that was born out of necessity to handle big data. But there are other market factors that we have been talking about for a few years. And as recently as February, when I was talking at the Future of the Profession conference at UPenn Law School, we were talking about these market factors: regulatory reform, the alternative legal services providers, the big 4 coming into the picture, and all of the different kinds of cost pressures to reduce legal spend, doing more with less time, demands from your C-suite, professional ethics and duties that demand tech competency. But never, ever could we have imagined back in February when we were talking about the future of the profession that we were going to have the mother of all market factors smacking us towards innovation. This COVID-19 pandemic is truly the tipping point for legal innovation. When they say necessity is the mother of invention, well, folks, here it is. So we're in the midst of a crisis that is not showing any signs of going anywhere anytime soon, and really already has impacted and will impact the core of who we are and how we do work. But neither the feasibility of technology nor the pandemic really fully addresses how we get in the perfect storm component number 3, that human factor, unless we are truly deliberate in our approach to change management. Because for people to want to change, you need to change your culture. Research indicates, this is the McKinsey research indicates that over 70% of all change management initiatives or innovations fail. And in almost every single case, the main reason for failure is the lack of human interaction with the innovation and the lack of willingness to change, human willingness to change. So change management really means changing culture. And let me define culture because I like to define everything. Culture is the behavior and the conduct of the employees and your team that is either encouraged or tolerated. And pay attention to those 2 prongs: encouraged behavior and tolerated behavior. Because if those 2 things are happening at the same time, your initiative is likely to fail, or at least not be adopted as comprehensively as it should. Because while you may encourage your team to adopt technology X, you may also at the same time tolerate parts of your team not to adopt it. And then you'll have silos of people using the technology and silos of people not. And that really is not a great recipe for success. I see this happening over and over again, and I think it's the kiss of death for the initiative to succeed in the way that it should. So I want you to think about that. I want you to think about needing to change your culture and needing to change what you are encouraging and also what you are tolerating. Now, I do believe that rewarding change management and innovation is the first step and very beneficial. You can promote someone that has had executed an idea successfully. You can do write-ups and market internally or with your colleagues outside of your department or even your organization about those successes. You can do a hackathon in a retreat for best workflow or process redesign. These are ways that you can keep your team engaged and encouraged. But for some cases, extreme measures need to be taken. So I don't want to say that using the stick does not work. For years, law firms struggled to have their lawyers enter time daily or even weekly, until they started putting these draconian measures like not getting their paycheck. And guess what? Most lawyers got in line. Also, some companies basically say, we're going to archive this system and this is what you're going to use now. I'm not suggesting that this is where you start. You start by team engagement and contribution to the ideas and getting the buy-in. But like my mother always says, you know, you can have a say, you get your chance, and then you get in line. So leadership really needs to be on top of all of these initiatives in positive ways, but also in enforcing and reinforcement ways. So, and I know that, you know, being the bad cop and using the stick is not the approach that we want to hear, and it's not what we want to do. But we've been talking about change management in the law for a very long time, as if it's some kind of pixie dust. It's not. It's a very thought out, executed plan. You will probably never get everyone on board with a transformative idea. The Pareto principle used in Six Sigma, the 80-20 rule, will suggest, if you think about it, that you should not spend 80% of your time trying to convince the 20% of the people you know will never get on board. So you have to work on a smart change management strategy and not a hard one. So basically, in dealing with the human factor, we have now the added advantage that the economic pressures that are pushing people to adopt technology in a way that we have not been pushed before, and this remote work situation not going anywhere, I think that really gives that extra push for the human component part of the perfect storm. But also think about how you change your culture, how you engage your team. Another takeaway is that change management is not some kind of mushy concept. There are business methodologies and time-tested and proven ways to trigger proper change management. I am a huge advocate for using Lean Six Sigma for change management. I train people on how to implement these tools to trigger and sustain change management. But for now, let me just say, this is not a Lean Six Sigma webinar, but Lean Six Sigma is basically a data-driven change management methodology. And it's something that you should consider and look at as a way to promote the change management that you need in your team and in your company. In addition to Lean and Agile project management, which I'm also a very big fan of, I read and study John Cotter's 3 Phases and 8 Stages for Change Management. Very briefly, he has 3 stages. One is culture, one is engaging your people, and one is implementing. And the way that I deal with Cotter's change management stages is by applying Lean Six Sigma tools to these stages and phases that he describes. So I guess, having discussed the fact that we may now have the perfect storm for innovation if we implement the right case management plan, this is the time to set your sights to, you know, Q4 2020 and 2021. And the people that are listening now and will be listening to this webinar are leaders of companies, general counsel, managers, and decision makers. So these are the folks that need to be making the plans for innovation. Because innovation doesn't grow in a linear fashion. Innovation is exponential. And if you do not work on all of this now, you are going to fall behind really quickly and really far behind. I just want you to think about the summer of 2007. That's when the first iPhone was released. That was only 13 years ago.
Wow.
And imagine living in a world now without iPhone and apps and all that comes with it. And it's true, innovation has never been linear. I mean, I'm not that old, and I remember as a child going to my mother's university where she taught computer programming, and being in rooms full of huge machines, i.e. computers that were spinning these cards with all sorts of little indentations. Again, that wasn't that long ago. But now we have a double whammy. We have the ever increasing combination of big data and the cognitive computing technology that is available and getting more powerful by the day. Big data plus AI is an incredible combination, and change will happen now much faster than ever before. So if we move to the next slide, the next thing that I would love to talk about very briefly is business process management tools. You are probably familiar with this concept of business process management. Is used outside of legal all the time, and it is a way to automate workflows and increase efficiency using technology. So business process management tools are something that you can put in place now that will have a great impact in your organization. And I want to talk about no-code solutions and workflow automation specifically because they're very easy. And these tools, you know, there are many, Big Square, Firestart, Autology, there are many others. They can work with the applications and the systems you have now to really create flow and efficiencies in your current workload. So I want you to think about business process automation like project management on steroids, or having an assistant on steroids, and implementing these BPM tools will really help you visualize what your team is doing, how they're doing it, how much time it's taking them to do specific tasks. And then you can plan, you know, ways to reduce different waste and inefficiencies that you can find in the process. Now, again, I must caution you that it is ideal to have a good process first, because automating a wasteful process full of inefficiencies and errors, it's really a nightmare waiting to happen. So even though I have cautioned you, and I believe that BPM is the way that we need to go, and I think we're going to be hearing a lot about BPM, you know, in 2020 and 2021. Once you start that, I don't think you'll ever look back. Until then, my advice is to use PMs and PM tools like Asana, Clio, HiQ. There are many other tools and collaboration tools that we're going to discuss later. And also my advice will be to have at least one certified PM in your team. And I mean certified, not someone that just got a promotional title, rather someone that has studied this and understands scoping and Agile and Scrum and Kanban and all of that goes with it, because that is what really is going to give you the value add from a PM. And if you have great people working for you that are acting as PMs but are not certified, this is an example of upskilling. Invest on those folks getting certified so that they can work better for you. The third slide is something that you are very familiar with, unless you've been living under the rock, is the rise of the legal operations. And we have many associations like CLOC and ACC that are making a big push for this business discipline within legal. The statistics and the numbers change depending on what survey or documentation I'm looking at, but I believe that anywhere between 25 and 55% of all legal departments, regardless of size, have at least one legal operations person on board. And this current situation with the pandemic, I think, is a perfect opportunity for the legal operations department of the future. This is not a place where you want to cut costs. You want to have a strong legal ops department. Because the point of the legal operations department or person is to carry out the business of law, leaving your lawyers to practice law. This is, of course, much easier said than done. So please keep in mind that legal operations, while they can transform the practice of law, your team needs to have the experience, the background, which ideally is the perfect combination of a lawyer, a technologist, and a business process person in one. And also the gravita needed so that people can embrace her or his ideas, which takes me back to the importance of leadership and fostering the culture change and change management. A few additional observations on legal ops. From what I said before, you can tell that I don't think this is a role easily filled. So where do you find this unicorn? You can grow a great legal ops department from within if you upskill your people, if you invest in training them the right way, and you can outsource it. But the worst thing that you can do is have a legal operations department that is not best in class, because all kinds of issues come along with that, including the rejection of innovative ideas. And that will slow you down rather than advancing your digital transformation goal. Not only that, it can be very, very costly. So I am a big proponent for legal operations done the right way and staffed the right way and embraced by the entire department in the right manner. So let's talk about legal tech. I know that I don't want to jump into tech because, like I mentioned before, I think tech is the third thing you do after you've upskilled your people and you have your process in place. But the predictions for 2020 before the pandemic hit were that 68% of all legal departments were going to be investing in legal technology in 2020. And that 80% were going to be focused on data mining and analysis. I see no reason why the numbers on investment and buying legal tech will change. However, the direction of it may be going in a different way. You may be spending more money in figuring out how to create a best-in-class remote workforce rather than data mining. But is, you know, the money was already there set for investing in legal tech, and it needs to be used and spent wisely, and maybe put even more money into this. I know that everyone tells me there's no money for it, but it's really what is going to carry you through this pandemic, and what the new world is going to look like. It is investment in innovation and transforming your workforce to be able to work digitally full-time if need be. So assuming you have the right foundational blocks in place, you have your people trained, that embrace change, you have a process that has been mapped out, you have removed waste, you have a technology roadmap that you have worked with the right team of people and have it prioritized. So what tech do you need to be best in class? I'm going to go through this list, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about them, even though we don't have that much time. If you have any questions about any of these later, please reach out to me. I'll be happy to talk to you about some or all of them. So you need collaboration tools, you need contract management systems, you need document management systems, you need document review systems, e-billing and matter management are also two things that you must have. E-signing, I assume everyone has that now. You also need performance metrics software or business analytics and intelligence tools. And you need process automation tools that we were talking about before, that business process management component, and how important I think it is, because it really can guide some of these other tools the right way. The options, the technology options for each of these buckets are so many, it can be very overwhelming. And just think about all the money going into legal tech. Your options will only continue to expand. So you need to approach all of this very methodically with this bite-size and technology roadmap approach. So having, gone through that list very quickly, let's talk about a few of them, with some detail, even though we don't have a lot of time. Let's go back to my favorite, business process management. This is a holistic approach to optimize and automate your business processes. A business management tool can identify and make your business work more efficiently. And it's something that is really not that expensive to implement if you do the legwork of working on that process piece before you launch a BPM tool into action. People ask me a little bit about, the difference between robotic process automation and business process management. RPA deals with repetitive tasks that typically occur at the start of a process, and RPA can play a significant role in automating these tasks, while business process management, or BPM, is the end-to-end solution. RPA is part of the BPM process. Basically, RPA describes sort of software development toolkits that allow non-engineers to quickly create these robots, commonly known as bots, to automate rules-driven processes by replacing human effort to complete those tasks. A bot can mimic a human activity, such as logging into an IT system, or sending an email, or copying and pasting data across systems. So, unlike other automation solutions, RPA really requires minimum integration within your existing setup. So those are really critical for quick gains and give you a lot of bang for your buck. Collaboration tools, you probably have or use some of these already. I think they're very important to collaborate internally, not only within your own team, but across teams in your organization and functions, and also externally. Now more than ever, you need to have an avenue, like a secure avenue, for content sharing, process creation, audit visibility into what your external counsel is doing, vendors, consultants are doing. I do think that client portals are now more important than ever. So these tools help you create team workspaces, route different content to different people, work with your approval process. There are many, I mean, the list is huge. I'll mention a few. There's Box, there is Axway, HiQ, Microsoft, Google, of course. Lenovo is another one of them. And then document review. Document review can be incorporated into contract management and other tools, but document review as a standalone tool as part of your toolbox or your technology roadmap is beneficial depending on how much litigation or due diligence and investigations you do. With an in-house or a preferred vendor that provides you with a document review tool, you can do your own early case assessment in-house. You can work on your due diligence reviews. You can keep work internally and do it with your lawyers, or you can outsource to third-party contract reviewers at a fraction of the price that you would pay associates at a firm. And this is something that I think a lot of legal departments have thought of and have in-house already. I recommend a fresh look at e-discovery to make sure that your processes are working with the technology that is currently available. There's a lot of AI, analytics, predictive coding that, in my experience, are not being used to their capacity, even though you're probably already paying for these capabilities within the tools that you pay for. So just some food for thought. Again, this is not an e-discovery seminar, but it bugs me to see it not work as well as it should. And when you think about outsourcing, especially now with reduced budgets, really consider offshore outsourcing. They have made so many improvements to the privacy and security of some of these systems in the Philippines and India. They're really doing top work at really a fraction of the price. So think about that, and I can talk to you more about that later. I use Eclipse and Relativity. There are many more. They have different licensing options, on-prem, in the cloud, different budgets to fit specific needs. Again, if you are interested, let me know. E-signing, I'm not even going to talk about that. I think we got that covered since we couldn't go to our office. A tool that is truly key for all of you is CLM, the Contract Lifecycle Management, and those systems. This is really one of the main pressure points that I see my clients having, and there are a lot of solutions out there. You probably have, I'm sure, one or more of them. You may have one for over 5 years that you're not that happy with, and you're like, this doesn't work. But these tools are upgraded frequently, and new tools come up with different bells and whistles. So maybe it's time to rethink about your CLM and what you need to do to, have a best of class CLM within your department. There are all kinds. They, depending on your needs, your size, your budget, whether you're looking for an enterprise solution or just for your legal department. There are different types of solutions out there. I'll mention Parley Pro, Contract Air, AI, Ironclad, Malbec, iCertis, Conga, Legal Sifter. I mean, the list is huge. So depending on what you're looking for, you can probably find some really powerful tools out there. Document management, I am still fascinated to know that a lot of legal departments still use SharePoint as their document management system. I hate to say this, but SharePoint, it is not a document management system. You need to move your documents into a proper document management system that can do, that can have the user rights, the auditing capabilities, the security measures that your data needs. World Docs, iManage, Filevine, Clio, Abacus, there's so many of them. But using SharePoint, I think, is not only clunky and inefficient, I think it has even more serious complications. E-billing systems and matter management systems are sort of combined, is what every legal department needs to track outside counsel spend, to create reports and dashboards, to mine, data mine what your lawyers are doing and how much they're spending per phase. You can get a lot of information by looking into these systems and getting reports out of these systems. There are so many: Intap, Orion, Clio, Simple Legal, Ascent, Filevine, CasePacer, the list goes on. Finally, and very quickly, let's talk about business intelligence tools. And these are designed to retrieve, analyze, and report data. You can customize the dashboards and pull information from your own internal applications and networks. most of the tools have an API or an application programming interface that you can access, and they have pre-built dashboards. So you can get a lot of information and insights into what your people are doing using Salesforce, Google Analytics, email marketing, Microsoft products. Power BI uses the existing Microsoft systems like Azure and SQL and Excel. They build data visualizations that don't break the bank. Others are more expensive like Tableau or Domo or Looker. The adoption rate on those is about 50%, and the payback rate or ROI is about 1.5 years on average, even with that low adoption rate. But they do brilliant visualizations of your data. There are even more niche tools like Xero, an email management system, or Clocktomizer, a tool that helps you analyze time entries. There are ones that are more invasive. There's one called ProtoScore, which comes from Productivity Score, and is very big brotherish, but it basically can track what your employees are doing remotely. So it doesn't matter where your employee is. If she or he is using the desktop application or a computer, a device provided by the enterprise, it can track how long they spend on Google, on LinkedIn, on different applications in your network, and it can give you this information daily. It rates your employees by how productive they're being based on all of these things. There's a lot of, issues that come with that, and, I don't know whether you want to jump straight to that, but there is a lot of capability and technology out there to let you have a handle on what your people are doing, whether or not they're in the office. So I'm sure that at this point, if you're still with me, at this point, you're thinking that this idea of digital transformation is a total pipe dream. So I want to move on to my last slide, while I'll remind you of my first slide about bite-sized innovation. But my last slide talks about collaboration. And I want to highlight the need to collaborate with others. There is an entire ecosystem of legal professionals out there that may be further into the maturity level, and happy to share their success stories and their failures. There will be failures. There are many of us that spend 70% of our time looking into ways to change management and doing the legwork and due diligence and the testing through all of the technology that is available. This is not a time for a grassroots movement. You have to ask others. So this is sort of like one of my last takeaways, which is collaboration is another key to success. You have probably all heard about the T-shaped lawyer, which means the lawyer that doesn't have only the traditional skills, but that also have soft skills or tech skills or EQ. So I want you to think about the T-shaped legal department. While the vertical column is all the traditional legal work that you are familiar with and excel at, the horizontal and ever expanding column has to be what makes you the best of class legal department. That horizontal column needs to be using innovation and technology on data governance, privacy, process, etc. So at this point, if I haven't lost you all, this is not a unicorn, and think about collaboration. And if we want to end there, we can end there if we have questions. Otherwise, we can go through a few other sort of last minute points.
Lourdes, thank you very much. There's a wealth of information there. You may have seen me put my head down a couple of times. I was taking some notes, and if I may just summarize that, for things to be ripe, if you will, you have to have the technology, the human resources, the people on board, and a trend, if you will, pushing need for technology along, and we have that at this point. And then one needs to begin to look at PBMs or PMs, business process management or process management. And then you need to spread it out further in terms of looking out at the legal ops. And then we got into the technology, and that's actually where we have some questions coming in, and it's around the technology. And probably the key to success is to be able to collaborate with peers or with others that have done some learning in this space to leverage the learning process, right? Instead of starting it, as you said, grassroots, but to learn from others in collaboration would be the key to leveraging the learning. So with that, one of the questions that came in is, aside from video conferencing, what are the most popular technology tools in-house legal departments are adopting in response to the pandemic?
That's a very broad question, right? Because I know that a lot of legal departments already had the ability to work remotely. So one of the first things that they did or should have done is adopting sort of that e-signing and the collaboration tools, right? So that they can keep, feel like they are working with their teams. So collaboration tools are not only project management tools, but they also sort of engage the team into feeling like they're in the office. You know, there's a lot of one-on-one communication, you know, when people are on these collaboration tools because you see the green sign. So they're using a lot of those collaboration tools. They're also imposing a lot of IT security measures on the, you know, your own devices. So if you work from home and you don't have, and you're not using your desktop that goes through a secure network, you know, they make you look into your home Wi-Fi and change the password and do all kinds of, you know, security, privacy, tech solutions to take care of your data, make sure that your data is being protected. Other tools that are being used, I think, are these business process management tools. I think a lot of the work that used to be done with a lot of admin work and staff work, onboarding, offboarding, invoice tracking, etc., are being now moved into matter management and other tools. You know, the e-billing and the matter management combo, I think, is a powerful way of knowing what your external counsel and vendors and clients are doing. So implementing those tools and creating client portals is another way that they are managing people outside. There is a lot of thought about using email management tools or time tracking tools for data mining. This productivity score tool that I mentioned at the end is a way where you can really see what your team is doing, you know, 9 to 5, if you so wish, because it tracks their telephone calls, their email, their, you know, that assumes that they're using company provided phones, but you can implement a lot of these small changes. And these are not extremely costly, but if you are feeling that you're losing visibility into what your team is doing or productivity of your team, then using collaboration tools, matter management tools, email management tools, time tracking, and, you know, generally business intelligence tools are a great way to do it. It takes a little bit of time. So a lot of these folks that I'm talking to are in the process of setting these things up and figuring out which ones they set up first. But, you know, we are going to be here for a long time. And, you know, even if we go back to the office, it will probably be not full time, it will be remote, partial remote work. And who knows when we're going to be in lockdown again. So these are things that need to be thought about now.
Right. Right. And a related question in the area of technology, is there one technology tool that you would recommend for the purpose of demonstrating to an organization that there is value in investing in technology for the law department?
If
The
you
bang
need to
for the
make
buck.
the,
Right.
if you need to make, well, if the question is about making the business case for technology, then a business intelligence or a business management process tool that can show you how long different tasks took before and take now. But if you're talking about, there is data, a lot of these companies will be able to provide you with data and case studies of how much each of these technologies can save. But for you to prove that it has worked for you is something that you have to implement first, which is why I think you start with little projects and you show how those little projects work, and how much that technology has saved you versus how much it has cost. And to me, that is the way to build upon getting buy-in and getting the bigger projects approved, is by showing how these smaller technologies work. We do have data from e-discovery, the way that it changed from being mostly done in law firms to being done either internally in the legal department, and or outsourced to alternative legal service providers. There's a lot of data on that you can probably use. So you do have to craft a good business case. It really depends on the tool, but if there's one tool that is going to give you this magic number, no, I don't think so. I think you have to do some digging into what things have cost you before and how much this will cost if you implement this tool. So you need to create that value stream mapping, and then provide that as part of your business proposal to your stakeholders, to the people that are approving your budgets.
Right. So, but not on the tool per se, but in having conversations with general counsel, in the course of those conversations, what I typically hear in terms of where they can make the largest single impact would be to manage outside legal spend in totality, and maybe a subgroup of that is that e-discovery. Would that be fair as places to look?
That would be fair.
Okay.
I think managing outside counsel spend, especially now, it should be prioritized. It should be really on top of your list. And for that, I recommend using collaboration tools and extending those tools to your law firms, so that your law firms give you visibility into what they are doing in real time. So talking to your law firm into doing a joint collaboration with any of these tools is definitely something that you can do. And also installing a matter management system that talks to the e-billing system, and that gives you reports every month, every week, however you set up the dashboard, of how much your lawyers are spending for the different tasks and what the phases are. So yes, collaboration tools and matter management tools are the ways that you can control outside counsel legal spend the best way. And also, I think if you have not done this recently, I think all legal departments should be revamping the RFPs to include technology and to include the need for these collaboration tools, and also to rank and value their in-house counsel responses, rank them by their innovation, right? So throw it back at them.
Yes.
I always ask my in-house counsel to include in their RFPs a question: how will you plan to innovate the delivery of legal services? Tell me how you're going to do it, because that way they'll get information from 1, 5, 8 law firms, and you'll see whether they're thinking outside the box, whether these firms are embracing change or not. And that is a great way to rank your new panel.
Great, great suggestion. Thank you. And another question that we have here is, can you repeat about the T, it says technique, the vertical column and the horizontal, I think the T graph that you had referenced.
Yeah, is the T as in Tom shaped lawyer. A lot of has been written about this, but it's basically that goes to the fact that we should not only be lawyers that know, what we learn in law school and how to do our craft in court or in the corporate world, but to be a T-shaped lawyer, you need other skills, technical skills, and EQ and soft skills being that T. So I want to translate the T-shaped lawyer into a T-shaped legal department, where you not only have your legal department being your vertical, but you have this entire horizontal column supporting your lawyers, that it could be lawyers, or it could be legal operators, or it could be IT or project managers. And those skills that go into that, horizontal column are skills that we need right now, are skills that address data governance, enterprise risk management. Innovation team is part of that T-shaped lawyer legal department. Crisis management, project coordination, privacy and compliance, design thinking, process improvement. All of these are crucial things that we need to have for the legal department of the future. So let's think about creating a T-shaped legal department.
Amen. Great. And let me just make sure. Yes, 1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry, I missed a question here. Does the technology that a law department adopts typically integrate with company systems?
It could. Depends on what you want it to do. CLM, contract management systems, are one that I recommend you think about, a wider enterprise integration. Document management systems, no, legal departments like to keep that, in their own little bubble. So it depends. Collaboration tools, yes, I think you want to learn what other teams are doing. So yes, for some of them, you want to think about it. Maybe start small in your legal department, but start with options that can then be used enterprise-wide. And I think contract management tools are definitely something that should be used at the enterprise level.
Terrific. And one last question. Do you think I should study on my processes before I select the tool?
Yes. Resounding yes.
Yes. Okay.
You should map your current process, and you should map your future process, and you should spend a lot of time doing that. What is it that Einstein, someone said, if I had an hour to solve a problem, I would spend, 58 minutes thinking about the problem, then 2 minutes fixing it. So that is what you need to think about. You need to think about the problem, about your process first, and then the tech is the thing that takes 2 minutes.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. I see that we're at 1:01, so I'm mindful of time, your time, Lourdes, and certainly everyone else who's on the call, their time, everybody's time. So I want to thank everyone for coming and for submitting questions, for participating today. Thank you on behalf of Princeton Legal and Karta Legal for joining us for the program. Lourdes's information was up for a period of time. If you didn't get any of her information, a recording of the webinar with the PowerPoint presentation or the screen, the slides will be sent along. So you will have that information accessible, and it is Karta Legal, Princeton Legal Search Group. So there were, we all know how to Google, right? So if you have a question, certainly feel free to Google and get in touch with either Lourdes Slater from Karta Legal or Princeton Legal Search Group. I think most of you know how to reach us. And we wish everyone a great day. Stay cool. Not sure, we have people coming in, calling in from many different locations. So wherever you are, enjoy all the possibilities of summer and stay cool. Thank you, Lourdes.
Thank you very much. Have a good day, everyone.
Take care.
Bye.